afternoon and welcome. I'm Ann Frederickson, if you don't know me, and we in the Fine Arts Division are so glad that you are here to help us honor our dear friend and colleague, Lois Jaeger, and to celebrate and thank her for her years of selfless service. A few years back, some of us in this building, with all due respect, assigned our own titles to those who work in the fine arts. There was some discussion of dubbing Lois Queen, but we decided that wasn't quite high enough. And so she became the Empress of the YFAC. It occurred to me that we never actually invested her with this distinguished position. So today we have given her a throne. She already had the consort. And because every girl needs a tiara, we are going to crown her officially. We also know that this occasion could become a trifle emotional, so we wanted to make sure that Lois was well prepared. You will note that the box, some of you can see it, some of you maybe not so much, is perhaps itself indicative of Lois's future in retirement, as it is a woman in a bikini and grass skirt, clearly relaxing. And finally, should she need to rehydrate after all this emotion, we'd hate for her to get dehydrated on such a big day. If I had to describe the many ways that Lois has impacted all of us, but me especially, we'd be here all afternoon. So I've tried to distill what I want to say down into two of Lois's key characteristics. First, her great brain. She does all those left-brained jobs that those of us who are right-brained do not have the capacity to perform well. She takes care of our budgets, schedules, special events, PR, maintenance. She is, in fact, the only one who knows how to fix that blasted copier. I don't know what we'll do next year. And she feeds us. There's an old Norwegian saying, how do you show someone you love them if you don't feed them? Which brings me to my second point. Carl Bloedel really liked that one. My second point is her mighty heart. Lois is a great defender and champion of each of us individually and corporately. She is generous. On more than one snowy winter's night, I found lodging in Steve and Lois's home. She is gracious and kind. She has that rare ability to make you feel like you are the most important person in the world and will drop everything to give you her undivided attention, even though many times she is probably much too busy to do so. Lois has been a dear and loyal friend to me, almost like the big sister I never had. She has been there at my highest and my lowest points. We've laughed together, we've cried together. She excels at relationships, and more so, she excels at loving others. In my quiet time this morning, I turned to Proverbs 31, the great description of what a truly godly woman should be. And I was struck again by what a perfect description it is of Lois. I'd like to summarize a few of the characteristics, but know that if you go and read the chapter, you could probably insert her name almost everywhere, or in fact everywhere. Who can find a truly excellent woman? One who is superior in all that she is and all that she does. She inspires trust. Delight attends her work. She wraps herself in strength, carries herself with confidence, and works hard. She extends mercy to those in need. Clothed in dignity and strength, with nothing to fear, she smiles when she thinks about her future. She conducts her conversations with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is ever her concern. There are some, indeed many, women who do well in every way, but of all of them, only you are truly excellent. Charm can be deceptive, and beauty will not last, but a woman who reveres the eternal should be praised above all others. Celebrate all she has achieved. Let her accomplishments publicly praise her. Lois, it has been my privilege and honor to work with you, but even more so to call you my friend. And I think that's about all I can say. And so now I'm going to turn the podium over to probably somebody who can maintain his decorum a little better than I, Dan Bruss.
Yeah, don't count on it. I don't see any Kleenexes up here, so that could be problematic. Yeah. Yeah, Lois, where do we start? We're going to start in 1972. I know you guys remember that year well. I happened to be the groomsmen, one of the groomsmen in their wedding. And very recently, for a different occasion, Steve sent me a couple pictures from the wedding. And Steve, you look like you're about 16. Sorry, but that was a long time ago, I understand. And Lois looked radiant, with a capital R. And rightly so. And they also included a couple other pictures that were now several decades after that, probably maybe 30 or more. And you know what? Steve did not look like he was 16 in that picture anymore. Yep. And Lois, she still looked radiant. And then today, what do you got? You still, well, except for the eyes, but she still looks radiant today. And I think that just sort of captures her timelessness over the years. The other thing that I wanted to, that came to my mind as I was looking at that picture, and particularly in connection with this, was those years already she had the passion for Bethany Lutheran College. She got that in her home, she got that in her church, she certainly got that when she was on campus, and that only continued to grow. And Ann touched on some of those things already. So I was trying to think of some adjectives that I might be able to use to describe the work that she's done here on behalf of not just the Fine Arts Department, but for the college as a whole. And I had a really hard time. I thought, well, maybe I could use hyperbole to do some things. That wasn't working. And I was just sort of stuck. And then I hate to admit this, but I actually learned something from my son. When he has a hard time coming up with words that really try to express it, all you got to do is put the word Uber in front of it. So, Lois isn't just fun or funny, she's uber fun. Lois isn't just compassionate, she's uber compassionate. And Lois isn't just hospitable. I don't even know how you do uber, but yeah, so it's uber hospitable. And so that is a simple way to capture some of the many qualities that she's showered upon us over the years, and we've been very thankful for that. I thought it was very fitting that she now has a tiara, because this next thing here might help a little bit in what I'm about to say. But I had an opportunity to do a sabbatical in Europe, in the Netherlands, and the professor that I worked with was internationally known, well respected, and every time somebody in that research group talked about the professor, they didn't say the professor. His name was Professor von Bohm. They didn't say Professor von Bohm. They'd say the professor. There was always this deference, and it just came naturally. It wasn't the professor, it was the professor. And so with Lois, the same thing is true. It's not just the fine arts director, it's the fine arts director. I don't even know how to describe that, but you've already got a sense of that even before I talked about that. So that is what epitomizes Lois. And it really, she represents in so many ways what represents the wonderfulness of being at Bethany, and that's the people. And she's one of many who makes this place really just the special place that it is. And we're just so blessed to be able to have people like Lois be a part of it now, well, more than 20 years. And so it's really been an amazing run for her. I don't like the word retirement. It's sort of like, I really don't like graduation either. I like the word commencement better. It's you're starting something. And you are kind of starting something new also. So it's not really retirement. You're going to be exploring the next phase. And I was talking to a friend of mine recently who's thinking about this herself. And she said, I'm excited because now I'm going to get a chance to sort of reinvent myself to do something different again. And I think for you, Lois, you're not going to have any trouble doing that whatsoever. And so it's going to be an exciting opportunity. Like I said, I don't like the word retirement. I would much rather think of it in terms of Spanish. And so for people who are entering the retirement phase of their life, in Spanish, she would be referred to as jubilada. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with hearing or reading Spanish, that jubilada starts with a J-U. And so I think then if you think about it in the English sense, now all of a sudden you'll see the root that's a little bit different. Jubilation, right? Jubilee. It's that excitement, it's that fun, it's that thrilling piece of entering a new phase, like that commencement. And so I really believe that for Lois, that's what retirement is going to be for her. She is going to become the jubilada. She's going to become the one who'll become jubilant, be able to spend more time with her family and do a whole lot of other things that she hasn't had the time because she's been cooking too darn many quiches and whatever else here, and so she can be doing a few other things. All right, so one last thing I want to share with you, and it's a favorite verse from Scripture of mine. And it's important throughout our life, but I think especially at times when you're in transition, you're moving to something different, this is particularly important. And so Paul writes in Philippians, he says, "And my God shall supply all your needs according to his riches in Christ Jesus." And he's made that promise to the Philippians, to all of us, and certainly to you, Lois. And so thank you again for your service, and enjoy being a jubilada.
When I'm Eric Ouren, I teach in the studio art department. when Lois told us that she was retiring, I went home and cried a little bit, and then it got busy and wrote this song, and then I got the Halvorson family to play along with me. So we're just going to move the microphone into place and just hold on a minute. This song is called Lois is a Ramblin'. Oh, Lois is a ramblin'. Sorry, I already forgot I'm gonna have to check my own work. Steve. This is always what happens to me. I forget everything when there's crowds of people out here. So I think I'm good. Okay. Oh, Lois was a rambler, but lived out on a farm. She longed to see the world, to learn of all its charm. This red-haired farmer's daughter, to Bethany she came to get a Lutheran education and make herself a name. She met a boy named Steve while out on choir tour. He was charming and played tuba, he was handsome, he was pure. A date they had together high above Niagara Falls. The stars were in alignment, they heard the future call. Oh, Lois is a ramblin', she's headed for the door. She's done retired and quit her job, won't see her anymore. Oh, Lois is a ramblin', she's headed for the door. She's off to be a grandma, who could ask for more? So she married Mr. Jaeger and moved to Wisconsin, where she ran a daycare business and birthed 2 children. They rambled back to Minnesota when Steve got a new job working at their alma mater, left the cheese for the corn cob. She was a bookstore lady for all of BLC until 2 half-time jobs to work administratively, then became fine arts director of all the campus arts for students coming from all over to study in these parts. Oh, Lois is a ramblin', she's headed for the door. She's done retired and quit her job, won't see her anymore. Oh, Lois is a ramblin', she's headed for the door. She's off to be a grandma, who could ask for more? So this is how we know her and matters to our hearts. From music, theater, and studio arts, we're not sure how to replace her. There are no substitutes, but there's no stopping Grandma Lois when she's wearing rambling boots. So here's to Rambling Lois, she's starting something big. She's gonna reach retirement age, she's on to a new gig. Lois is a ramblin', she's headed for the door. She's done retired and quit her job, won't see her anymore. Lois is a ramblin', she's headed for the door. She's off to be a grandma, who can ask for more? Lois is a ramblin', her work here is all done. She's been the best for 20 years, she is second to none. Oh, Lois is a ramblin', and there's one thing we all know. We're sure to get emotional when at last she goes. Oh, Lois is a ramblin', she's headed for the door. She's done retired and quit her job, won't see her anymore. Oh, Lois is a ramblin', she's headed for the door. She's off to be a grandma, who could ask for more? Well, when Lois told us that she was retiring, we looked like this. It was in a morning meeting, and we have those, because that seems to be the only time when we can kind of get it together. And she let us know it was the last thing that she was telling us, So we had the meeting, and then at the very end she says, "Oh, and by the way, I'm retiring." And she, she wanted to bolt. and when we found out that she didn't want any kind of this, she didn't want any kind of recognition, any kind of party. She wanted to bow her head and just sort of slink away. And it had to be us to inform her that wasn't going to happen. And so we were going to have this whether she liked it or not. So I hope you like it, because here it is. In honor of Lois, and thank you again my name's Peter Bloedel, and I teach in theater. And by the way, I should say, there's a zillion people who are up in the booth and who have done so much stuff for this party who are not going to be on stage. Really, the whole division, the whole fine arts division, that's studio art and theater and music, and anybody who has been in this building and who has gotten to know Lois, they've all been part of this. And so just don't think that it's just a few of us who are doing this. But in honor of Lois and for this occasion, I would like to read a poem. And this is called Ode to Lois Jaeger, a poem in 3 acts. May 11th, 2013, prologue. We in the fine arts can paint, act, and sing, but order and planning, that's not quite our thing. Receptions and tickets, recording receipts, tours and budgets, and keeping spreadsheets. Most of our brains here are not wired like that. Taming us must be like trying to herd cats. And herding these cats is a daunting prospectus. It takes a unique kind of soul to direct us. But in the mid-90s, our God had our back when he put good Lois into the YFAC. Her qualifications were stellar. You see, Lois had earned her MOM degree. The YFAC is truly a cultural zone, but Lois made a culture here of her own. The culture of kindness and aid that we treasure is what Lois fostered in tireless measure. She is the cheerleader for her art friends, and we have drawn closer as her work here ends. Most people haven't a singular notion of all of the work that Lois does out of devotion for this institution and its higher mission. She is an administrative magician. Somehow she's found a miraculous way to cram 33 hours into that workday. It's just too easily taken for granted what Lois has started and carefully planted. So let's not do that to our unsung arts hero. Let's start at the top, the year 1950. Act 1. Out in the night, when most people are merry, a car flew across the cold Iowa prairie. A brightened night lit by the blue of the moon helped their pursuit of a hospital room. These were the Olsons who drove to be thrifty back on that Christmas Eve in 1950. Babies, of course, are what make parents blessed. I mean, after you get past that gross part, I guess.
But having a baby on Christmas Eve, yipes! In a pinch, lefse become baby wipes. But the Olsons were blessed with a girl Christmas present, red-headed, blinking, and already pleasant. Lois was raised there in Iowa's North region, in Scarville, a small town amidst the Norwegians. There she perfected her smiling good mood and learned how to sew and cook mostly white food. Gardening, music, and then, God forbid, probably smoked by the creek with some boy Auberg kid. Lois had big city dreams, don't you know, and fantasized of the bright lights of Mankato. A jet-setting, glamorous, hip, stylish span of culture and hub to the super Lutherans. That place is so cool, it's the greatest of any. I wish I could go to high school at Bethany. That was supposed to be Lois. But her folks made her take her reality pills and sent her to high school 1 year at Lake Mills, Iowa. But then they succumbed to the Lutheran school draw, and Bethany became her high school after all. Everyone loved her as her niceness grew. This girl is so nice, what on earth will we do? Lois's kindness grew so fat and round, when she graduated, that high school shut down. That's right, boys and girls. That's why to this day there's only a college now at Bethany. Lois continued at Bethany College to grow in her faith and excel in her knowledge, but then something happened she didn't see coming. She met a boy there who got her young heart drumming. Was there some controversy? Let me tell. He was a German. And he was Wells. In Scarville, there must have been lots of debating about Lois and her interracially dating. Back at the home front, just think of the quibbling when they learned this German had 11 siblings. 11? Those Germans, what, are they rabbits? Too much procreation's a very bad habit. Oofta! But then when they met him, that heat turned to ice. And they learned Steve Jaeger was also quite nice. It's slightly disgusting how nice those two were. Lois and Steve were cute and popular. In '73, that old wood Scarville church nearly burst at the seams and was ready to lurch. The Jaeger wedding, it was quite the occasion, but locals still call it the German invasion. Back to Mankato, the town that was cool. She taught at Mount Olive while Steve went to school. Not at Mount Olive, it was MSU. When Steve was done there, they bought bags to put stuff in and packed them all up and then moved to Wisconsin. Beaver Dam was the new town where Steve taught, a good town for having a family, they thought. Anika was born into their family legion. How do we raise her? German? Norwegian? Now, I'm no expert, I'm not very keen, but I think Anika got that Norsky gene. With Lois's own motherhood coinciding, she quickly got busy at daycare providing. Parents loved Lois's house. It was cleaner, and kids, of course, thrived on her doting demeanor. But time in Wisconsin was going by faster, and Steve thought it time he should go get his master's. So they packed up and moved back to here for a year. and managed apartments in town, so I hear. A stint for a year back in Mankato town allowed Steve to hammer that high degree down. But Steve was on unpaid leave just at that time and canceled their insurance to save a dime. That healthcare choice prompted some further reflecting, because just after that they learned they were expecting. And this one was not quite as smooth as the first. To put it another way, this was the worst. This baby hit Lois J just like a freighter and sent our hero into way early labor. Contractions in April. Come on, no, why? That baby was supposed to be born in July. 3 days in the hospital's intensive care, all out of pocket without that health care. Then Lois spent nearly 2 months in her bed, if only to think happy, fun thoughts instead. Waiting and bed rest and headaches and chills, mom to a toddler and more bills, till finally a birthday came, and none too soon. Jacob was born at the tail end of June. Poor Lois withstood more than most people should, and it's a good thing that darn kid turned out good. Through all of that action, Steve got his degree, and the family felt just like they'd won the Grand Prix. They packed their stuff tight in the car with a slam and moved back to Packerland at Beaver Dam. But a year or two later, they got a new mission, and Steve was called up to come work in admissions and also coach soccer here at BLC. Again, they crammed in that car for Bethany. Their car got well used to, zigzagging that way, but this time they moved to Mankato and stayed. The daycare biz that Lois started kept going, just now in Mankato, and business was growing. Harstad and Madsen and Weekman and Shoup were just a few names of her new daycare troupe. Yes, Lois would care for these kids and her own. Her home was a Christ-centered growing up zone. And grow up they did until Lois felt clear to find other work or an outside career. Act 2. In this act, we see the transmorgification of Lois, who now had a brand new vocation. You might ask me where. Well, I'll tell you, don't bother. She worked in the bookstore of her alma mater. Lance Schwartz needed help in the store. It was hectic, so Lois stepped in with her Norway work ethic and got down to business as fast as you please. Her hair was big then. It was in the late 80s. Or maybe the 90s. Who cares? I'm not counting. Details aren't part of poetic remountings. The point is, she turned heads. Who could not see her unbridled smarts and her ability? By the mid-90s, her job had 2 parts: secretary of both sports and fine arts. That'd be enough to drive most to hysteria, trying to field questions and calls in both areas. But Lois could do it. She's crazy that way. And still, she'd bless everyone's heart every day. But as work increased in our fine arts center, a new wind blew softly as she humbly entered. She hardly had triggered the full-time detector as Lois became the full-time arts director. The memory of that event seems so unclear because in my mind, Lois has always been here. I know that's not true, but I can't collect when Lois became such a dear and true friend. And I'm not alone. We all have that psychosis. It's called neurosis Loisness hypnosis. I mean, what can you say of a management style that's born out of service and a modest smile? She never presumed for a moment to lead us. She'd make her suggestions and then she would feed us. When we had our meetings, she'd often make breakfast with egg bake, fruit muffins, sweet rolls. Oh, the freshness. Now that's a director right there, I'll tell you. There's nothing for Lois that we wouldn't do. But she beat us there too, though. With nary a fuss, she selflessly gave all she could back to us. She'd remind us that our work was impactful and make us feel like our results were substantial. Promoting the arts here was her master plan, but soon it was clear she was our biggest fan. She'd plug the fine arts here with grace and finesse, but never would share in the credit or press. Because of that, few people got a depiction of Lois's huge 14-page job description. Here's just a snapshot. I'll read it quick. If I read it slowly, we'd all become sick. Lois would research and contact and book for the year all of the guest artists who perform here. That includes travel and housing and hosting, ushers and servers and internet posting. Schedule the trips and the stuff that's on campus, all of band tours and their day-by-day atlas. Trips to the Guthrie, arrange transportation, oversee fundraisers and art donations, organize box office tickets and orders, and those who run videotaping recorders, bi-monthly mailings to churches and schools. Work orders, flyers and posters and tools, public relations, receptions galore, each one as nice as the one just before. Make sure that no playbill here gets by unchecked. Student recitals and theater projects. Keeps all the budgets for the whole division and crunch all the numbers with detailed precision. Honor choir and an advisor of students. All of it done with a smile and with prudence. Whew. What Lois does for us is not accidental. She does the work of 10 men because she's mental. And that's just a short list of what is explicable. But some things pop up that are just unpredictable. When Jam Jar Sonnets was picked for the road, Lois took on a surprising workload. She planned transportation and food for the cast and lodging in Kansas and did it all fast. When I asked her if she was going to come with us, she gave me a face that was merry as Christmas. And off of her tongue, these laughing words twirled. Pete, I would not miss that show for the world. How blessed in a job can all of us be, surrounded by folks who give of themselves freely. That tone set so humbly by one we admire, whose true example may we all aspire. Act 3. We could go on about how she's fantastic, but we'd be remiss not to mention her magic. Lois has dabbled in black magic training to make every place that she is seem amazing. Now, we can't be sure, but we think that's the reason why we in the fine arts enjoy such cohesion. How can we not think that working here's lovely when Lois is constantly making us comfy? Makes sense. When we're comfy, we'll make art more arty. And that brings us to the Fine Arts Christmas party. Those parties were just a small slice of heaven, and now that they're done, they will go down as legend. Lois's parties were her claim to fame and would easily put Martha Stewart to shame. Her house isn't large, but that's not the main part. The main ingredient there was her heart. The magic she'd conjure is 1 in a million and made grown professors as squirrely as children. Especially down in the basement, we found. There must be more magic down there underground. We'd eat up our fill with no worries or doubts. Our endless laughter would be our ab workout. And those who stayed long enough would join in songs with Lois and Steve down there singing along. When Lois retires, why, what will she do? Well, this poem has sources, and I think they're true. She'll garden and sew and cook gems in her kitchen and get to spend time with her precious grandchildren. She'll be there more often with her loving mother and volunteer, perhaps, of course, like no other. We've even heard rumors, and can't guess the reason, that Lois might sign up and then take Norwegian. And if that happens, I bet we'll all see Lois at 10 a.m. sitting with Steve. Just like they do, leading by their example, worshiping Christ side by side in our chapel. This poem is dramatic, composed circumspectly. Lois, it's time we address you directly. There's so much more that we could admire, like World Club and the Mount Olive Girls Choir, but if we did, our heads would likely explode from Lois J. admiration overload. Lois, we love you. What more can we say? And we weren't about to let you get away without some kind of party or some kind of fuss. But maybe this whole thing is partly for us. We needed closure, some kind of big deal, to let you know just how the rest of us feel. When so much of what you do goes by unthanked, we needed to let you know how you are ranked at the way tippy top of our whole role model list. We've been so blessed to have you in our midst. You deserve now to relax and have fun and do all the things that you want to get done. Please, learn that Norwegian as long as you want to. So we won't see Steve in the chapel without you. And when you want art, don't think twice to come back and visit your friends waiting in the YFAC. With your departure, an era here ends. God bless the next one. And bless you, our dear friend. We love you, Lois.
Thanks. One of the things that we did was that we got a gift for Lois, and Lois is famous for tending not only the garden here, but the garden in her home, around her home. And so we had Professor Bill Bukowski do a garden painting for Lois. If you want to come and lift this out of the box. The other thing that we decided to do, because Lois has been so integral in the fine arts for the duration of her tenure, we decided to put together a Lois Jaeger, our fine arts scholarship. So we'll be letting you know more about that as that goes along. But everybody has really said everything that we would love to say to you, and I think one of the best things that I ever heard from someone was that they told me that they thought the world of me, and for me that's the highest compliment that I can give anyone is, Lois, we think the world of you, and we've been so lucky to have you here for the time that you've been here, and we will surely sorely miss you. So. And now it is your turn to speak.
Okay. Oh, I hardly know what to say, but I wrote it all down ahead of time, everything, so I wouldn't forget, and so I could do this. Thank you all for being here today. I'm completely overwhelmed. This is going to be messy, I'm just telling you. And I'm sorry. But I have some things to say. I particularly have thanks to offer. And I'll do my best to keep this from becoming a really long and really bad Emmy Award acceptance speech. So, for the thanks. First of all, to my family. I couldn't have committed myself to Bethany and this work without your support and encouragement. I wouldn't have committed myself to it. We all know that a job isn't just about me or yourself. It does, and it did impact the people around me, the people around you. Lots of hours, lots of energy went into these years. So I want to publicly thank Jake and Jamie, Anika and Brian, Emmett and Bergen for their time of just making it possible for me to do this, not just by understanding, but by supporting and encouraging and cheering. I couldn't do it without them, so thank you. Then there's Steve. Couldn't do much without him. Thanks, Steve, for talking me off the ledge when I would feel overwhelmed, making me laugh when I would get too stressed, comfort me when I was down, praising me whether I deserved it or not, driving the truck full of rental instruments all over Washington State on band tour, toting countless pounds of refreshment food back from Sam's Club for honor choir and refreshments, waiting patiently, or not so much, for me to just do one more little thing before we go home at night, and for laundering enough reception tablecloths to blanket Blue Earth County. In all seriousness, you've made it possible for me to have the best job in the best place in the whole world, because you always made me feel so wholeheartedly supported. Thank you. I love you, and now I'm all yours. And Bethany students, thank you. Thanks for helping me feel young, even if my driver's license insists I'm not so much. Your energy and enthusiasm brighten every day in this building. I am ceaselessly awed by your talents. But the greatest joy and marvel is watching you and those talents mature through 4 years here. Thank you for the privilege of being a little part of one of the most exciting times in your life. Thank you for being here today. Seriously, you don't have anything better to do on a spring Saturday. That's really sad. And finally, the schemers and plotters and hosts of this little soiree, my dear fine arts faculty. You know that I love the arts. You also know that I have more talent in my little finger than I do in the entire rest of my body. But you made someone so completely devoid of artistic ability feel like a true part of the team. You bore with me when I was such a newbie that I really didn't have any idea of what I was doing. And for 16 years, you've forgiven many, many mistakes and patiently helped me figure it all out. You make me laugh a lot. More than anything, though, you make me so proud. I warned you. I said it would be messy. Okay, I don't just mean that you make me proud by what you produce in wonderful concerts and plays and art shows. Oh, you certainly do that. And those so often present a public face of the college. What makes me most proud has been watching daily, year in and year out, how you teach our students so much so much more than singing or acting or painting or sculpting. You teach the art of living. The art of living a life of Christian vocation. Your work and your effort is all focused out, all out, on serving, enriching, and blessing the lives around you. And then all of the credit and all of the glory you send up. As far as I know, that's Christian vocation. You can't teach it in lectures. You can only teach it by example. Me too. I'm sorry. Because I love Bethany so much, I am so glad that you are here. You are here so committed to the mission of this college, to the education of our students, and to the saving gospel of Christ. I'm so thankful for you. I may not always miss the workload, but I will miss working with you. I admire you. I respect you. I really love you guys. I'll always pray that God bless Bethany. I pray that he blesses every one of you, all of you. Thank you so much.
reception. There's cake, there's nuts, there's cards, there's a little place for cards, there's little things you can write things for Lois. And of course we'll be able to talk with Lois out in the lobby.
And also a list for her first day of retirement at the door, so please pick one of those up. And share that day with her.
Thank you everybody for coming.
Oh, Lois is a ramblin', she's headed for the door. She's done retired and quit her job, won't see her anymore. Oh, Lois is a ramblin', she's headed for the door. She's off to be a grandma, who could ask for more?